What if, the taste of your morning coffee or like the rough bark of an oak tree outside your window and even that really deep kind of existential dread you occasionally feel about your career? What if all of that is caused by the exact same mathematical glitch?
It sounds wild when you put it like that.
It really does. But today, we're taking a deep dive into a text that claims exactly that. It's this fascinating translated piece by a writer named Suofeng, and it's titled 36 Bagua Arrays, the Array of Structure.
Yeah, it's quite a title.
Right. And for you listening right now, the mission of this deep dive is to really explore a truly radical, almost, well, startling philosophy. Because this text argues that absolutely everything in existence is dictated by one single, uncompromising law, which is underlying structures.
It's an incredibly bold premise, honestly. Schwiffing is essentially proposing this unified theory of reality where the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, they're not separate categories of existence at all.
Right.
They're all governed by exactly the same mechanical architectural rule.
Yeah, and it completely rejects our natural instinct to sort of categorize the world into different buckets, like biology over here, psychology over there, physics in its own corner.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's unpack this, because the text doesn't just suggest this as a fun little thought experiment. It establishes it as an absolute law right out of the gate.
It really does.
It claims that without structure, there is no universe, no life, and literally no existence. So how does Whiffing even begin to prove that, say, the anxiety I feel sitting in traffic and the physical makeup of a rock come from the exact same mechanism?
Well, the text establishes this by kind of stripping away any sort of mystical essence we usually assign to things. It introduces this fundamental law structure, dictates properties.
Okay.
So the distinguishing feature between literally any two things in the universe is purely structural.
Yeah.
And it uses these incredibly vivid examples to ground the idea.
Like what?
Well, it states that structure is the only reason a mountain is different from a molecule.
Right.
It's the reason an atom behaves differently than a dog or a fish.
So we're basically boiling down all the romance of reality into cold, hard architecture.
Exactly. And it goes straight to our raw sensory experience, too. Like, according to Schwiffing, structure determines whether you taste sweetness or sourness, bitterness, saltiness, or spiciness.
Wow, even taste.
Yeah. It dictates whether your eyes perceive red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, blue, or purple.
That's...
Even scents, whether something smells fragrant, pungent, or like fish. It's not magic, and it's not random. It is entirely a result of structural variance.
I'm trying to visualize the actual mechanism here. Because in the past, we might have compared this to building blocks, right? Like a box of Lego.
Sure, yeah.
But that feels a bit too static for what this text is describing. To me, it sounds much more like the underlying code in a video game's physics engine.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, like if you are playing a racing game, the structure of the code dictates that your vehicle has mass, it reacts to gravity, it relies on combustion. And if you try to, cast a magic spell to fly over the track, nothing happens. Not because you didn't press the right buttons, but because the underlying structure of that environment simply does not possess the code for magic. The properties are limited by the architecture.
That's actually a much more accurate way to look at it because it highlights the rigidity of this system.
The boundaries of it.
Exactly. The text talks about things having specific natures. A mountain has mountain nature, water has water nature, animals have animal nature.
Right.
And these natures are the inevitable output of an orderly, non-chaotic arrangement that the text calls the structure array. Reality fulfills its role without chaos because the structure absolutely demands it.
It has no choice.
Right. A peach tree, to use the text's own poetic example, bears peaches. A willow tree does not bear fruit. And the willow tree isn't failing, right? It simply doesn't have the structure to render a peach.
If you're in the peach tree structure, you get peaches.
Exactly.
Which naturally creates some pretty serious friction when we apply this logic to human beings.
Oh, definitely.
Because if physical structures dictate whether a flower smells sweet, what does the text say about the human structure? Like, if we are bound by a specific physics engine, so to speak, what are the properties of our human array?
Well, this is where the text kind of pivots from the purely physical world into the existential. And it introduces this concept of confinement.
Confinement, yeah?
The human structure area is essentially a trap. All life forms are restricted to a specific spatial environment by their structures. Just as a fish physically cannot survive on the side of a mountain, humans are structurally bound to the human world.
Right.
And the defining characteristic of this human structure array is, well, bustling.
Bustling, like the daily hustle.
Yes. The text defines it as spending your entire life bustling about for food, clothing, shelter, and transportation.
Oh, man.
That endless, repetitive loop of resource gathering just to maintain your existence. The text argues that is not a personal failure and it's not bad luck. That is the fundamental property of the human structure.
Wait, hold on, though. Because it's one thing to say that humans have to eat or that we all stress over paying rent, right?
Okay.
But the text gets uncomfortably specific about how this human structure operates, particularly regarding human relationships.
It does.
It explicitly states that a person living in a marriage and family will inevitably be entangled in its troubles. It literally claims that to escape the suffering of being human, one must step out of marriage and family.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
So, let me hold your feet to the fire here on Shui Feng's logic. Is this philosophy demanding actual abandonment of our loved ones for the sake of spiritual freedom? Because, I mean, that sounds less like enlightenment and more like leaving a trail of collateral damage in your wake. How does the text justify that?
It's a really harsh pill to swallow,
Yeah.
and it's crucial to understand how the text justifies it purely through the lens of structural mechanics, completely devoid of sentimentality.
Okay, so it's not emotional.
No, not at all. It isn't making a moral judgment. It isn't saying love is evil or anything like that. It is saying that marriage and family are the load-bearing pillars of the human structure array.
Oh, I see. They're the anchors keeping you in the physics engine.
Precisely. To live leisurely and freely, one must break free from the constraints of the human structure array. But if you have a family, your structure requires you to hustle.
Because you have to provide for them.
Exactly. You must provide food, shelter, and clothing for dependents. You are locked into the bustling. The text's logic is uncompromising here. If the structure remains unchanged, the nature of the thing cannot change.
Right, the willow tree can't make peaches.
Exactly. It uses a really stark analogy. It says if a dog wants to become human, it must entirely change its structure.
Wow.
If a human wants to be a celestial being, they cannot simply, think positive thoughts while maintaining human structural ties. They must jump out of the human environment entirely.
So jumping out of the three realms and not being bound by the five elements, as the text puts it, means literally severing the ties that force you to participate in the human hustle.
Yes. You cannot run a celestial program while you are structurally tethered to human obligations. The friction would just be impossible.
Which brings us to a massive, glaring logistical problem, honestly.
Just a small one, right?
Right. Because if we accept the premise that the human structure is this trap of bustling and entanglement, how do we possibly escape it?
That is the big question.
Because unlike the video game Avatar, we are physically rendered in flesh and blood. We can't rearrange our atoms. We can't physically teleport out of our bodies.
All right.
So here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is the text's elegant solution to this seemingly impossible physical barrier. It acknowledges the hardware is fixed,
Okay.
but it argues that the escape hatch isn't physical at all.
Yeah.
We must change the non-material structure of life.
The non-material structure, meaning our consciousness isn't just like a byproduct of our brain. It is a structure itself.
Exactly. And Zhifeng utilizes a very modern technological metaphor to explain this mechanism. Think about how computers completely transform their capabilities.
Sure.
You don't always need to melt down the hardware and buy a whole new machine. The text explicitly argues that to replace the human life structure with a celestial one, we must format human consciousness and reinstall celestial consciousness.
So it's the ultimate factory reset.
Yes, exactly.
And trusting the intelligence of everyone listening, we all know what an OS update does, right? You don't change the glass and metal of a device.
Right, the phone looks exactly the same.
But when you wipe the old operating system and install a new one, you fundamentally alter how the machine processes reality. It interacts with networks differently. It handles inputs differently. The hardware remains completely human, but the software running the show becomes celestial.
That is the exact mechanism of escape the text is proposing. As long as the consciousness, the non-material structure changes, your reality changes. You have successfully jumped out of the human array by rewriting the code that governs your perception and reaction to the world.
That makes total sense. But if I'm preparing to format a hard drive, I kind of need to know exactly what I'm deleting.
Naturally.
If we are wiping the human OS, my first instinct is to assume we're targeting the obvious bugs in our programming. Like, I'm guessing the text wants us to delete things like greed, violence, hatred, the objectively negative traits that cause human suffering.
It does. The text provides a very comprehensive list of files targeted for deletion.
Okay.
It mandates wiping out jealousy, resentment, anger, selfishness, greed, laziness, fear, worry, anxiety, and even emotional dependence on external factors.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, any self-help seminar on the planet would tell you to let go of fear and anger. That's pretty standard stuff.
Right.
But reading through the text, there is a highly provocative twist here that you really need to hear. Xu doesn't stop at the quote-unquote bad emotions.
No, not at all.
The text demands the deletion of the exact things human society celebrates and uses as its foundational glue. Like, it explicitly lists nationalism, religion, political parties, and ethnicity.
It really leaves absolutely no stone unturned.
And it demands the deletion of the pursuit of fame, status, merit, and ancestral glory.
It is a total teardown of the human ego.
And it goes even further. It says the desire for longevity is a glitch.
Yeah.
Even the pursuit of magical powers and special abilities or wanting to, quote, change nature are labeled as human traits that must be formatted. That is wild to me because in so many esoteric or existential texts, gaining special abilities or changing the world for the better is the ultimate goal.
It's usually the whole point of studying them.
Right, but here, even wanting to be special or wanting to fix nature is viewed as a corruption in the software.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you can clearly see the underlying causality of why those specific things have to go.
Okay, walk me through it.
Nationalism, religion, the pursuit of legacy, the desire to change the world. These are all mechanisms of attachment. They are the non-material tethers tying you to the human structure array. Think about it. If you want to change nature, it means you are dissatisfied with reality.
Yeah, you want it to be different.
Which breeds anxiety and requires bustling to fix it. If you seek status or magical powers, you are competing within the human hierarchy.
You're still playing the human game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You cannot run a frictionless celestial OS if your system is constantly pinging human servers for status updates, validation, or political alignment.
Wow. So the ambition to leave a mark on the world is literally a human structural defect.
According to this text, yes.
That is a heavy realization. But let's say we do it. Let's say we hit delete. The ambition, the political identities, the fear, the attachments, they're all completely wiped. The drive is clean. What exactly is the celestial OS we are installing in its place?
Well, the celestial consciousness is characterized by absolute surrender and flow. Where the human OS resists and tries to mold reality, the celestial OS embraces things exactly as they are.
No resistance.
Right. The text states it involves associating with others by following natural come-and-go relations.
Meaning no forced attachments. Like if someone is in your life, great. If they leave, let them go. No lingering entanglements.
Exactly that. It's about walking in accordance with nature's laws and feeling completely content no matter the spatial environment.
Okay.
And it explicitly mentions enjoying life, playing, and entertaining oneself as core manifestations of this higher consciousness.
Wait. So the highest spiritual state isn't solemn meditation in a cave somewhere. It's playing.
Yes, because play requires no specific outcome.
Oh.
It isn't bustling for survival. It's just being. But the ultimate line of code in this new operating system, the core kernel of it, is surrendering your life to what the text calls the greatest creator, and allowing the entire process of your life to be arranged by Tao.
Okay, let's clarify those terms for the listener based on how this text uses them, because they carry a lot of historical baggage.
They certainly do.
In Schiffing's structure, the greatest creator and the Tao don't necessarily read as like a bearded deity passing moral judgment from the clouds. They read more like the ultimate programmers or the fundamental underlying current of the universe.
Yes.
So surrendering to the Tao just means you stop trying to steer the river.
That's a perfect synthesis, really. The Tao is the flow. The human OS burns all its energy trying to paddle upstream, trying to change nature, trying to secure legacy.
Exhausting itself.
Exactly. The celestial OS just lets the current take it.
I want to make this really concrete because the abstract theory is fascinating, but how does this actually look in practice? What happens when a human body running the celestial OS encounters a totally mundane human problem? Say you get aggressively cut off in bumper-to-bumper traffic. Or worse, you get fired from your job.
Oh.
The human OS instantly triggers an adrenal response. It runs the anger script or the panic script because its survival structure is threatened. What does the celestial OS do in that exact moment?
Well, in the Celestial OS, the script for anger or panic literally does not exist. It was formatted.
It's gone.
It's entirely gone. So when the car cuts you off or the boss fires you, there is no friction. The celestial structure recognizes the event as just a shift in the environment, a come-and-go relation.
Wow.
You observe it, you accept the new reality without resistance, and you just flow around it like water hitting a rock. There is no anxiety about the future because you have surrendered the arrangement of your life to the Tao. You are content anywhere.
It sounds incredibly light, like dropping a 100-pound backpack you didn't even know you were carrying around.
That's a great way to describe it.
But how do we actually execute this update? I mean, the text offers this radical blueprint, but what are you practically supposed to do tomorrow morning to start formatting the drive?
The text's final practical advice is one of emulation and study. It introduces the concept of the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Celestial Islands continent.
And just to clarify for the listener, in the context of this specific philosophy, these are conceptual higher planes of existence. They represent varying levels of structural purity far beyond our human world.
Exactly. They are environments where beings already exist without these human attachments.
Okay.
The text instructs us to study, learn from, and imitate the Celestials living in those realms. You must understand their lifestyle and mindset and consciously embody them in your daily life.
So it's an active practice.
It is a gradual, deliberate process of overwriting your own code. Every time you choose to react with flow instead of anger or play instead of hustle, you are replacing a line of human code with celestial code. Bit by bit, the non-material structure changes until you successfully escape the human array and earn the right to inhabit those higher environments.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom all the way out, Yufeng is offering a perspective that completely dismantles how we view our daily struggles.
It really flips everything on its head.
Yeah. The argument here is that the stress of paying bills, the bitter divides over politics, the desperate need to be remembered, none of these are personal failings. They are just the mathematically guaranteed outputs of the specific structural machine we are currently plugged into.
Exactly.
A willow tree makes willow leaves. The human structure makes hustle and anxiety. You can't fault the machine for doing what it was coded to do.
You could only acknowledge the confinement, format the drive, and install a system that no longer requires you to suffer.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly thorny paradox. And I really want you to think about this as you navigate your day today. Let's say you commit to this. You gradually emulate the Celestials. You successfully format your consciousness, deleting the ambition, the nationalism, the fear, and the attachments.
The drive is clean.
The drive is clean, right? You install this pristine celestial code of pure play and total surrender to the Tao. But you are still walking around in this physically demanding human world. You still have human hardware.
Right. You still have to eat.
Exactly. If you run that celestial software in the middle of a chaotic corporate office, or while trying to navigate the very real demands of a modern society, does the world around you actually transform into a celestial experience?
That's the real question.
Or do you simply become an invisible ghost, totally immune to the gravity of a world that is still frantically bustling around you? Ultimately, can a celestial operating system run successfully on human hardware in the real world without the entire system eventually crashing? Keep diving deep.